Hey there folks, my name is Peter, and on today's video we are going to solve a garage organization problem using two different methods. So for those of you who watched my previous video, we put a Milwaukee Packout wall section up above my workbench, and that has been fantastic, right? We're able to store all sorts of stuff in a very modular, reusable sort of way. And today we're going to extend that to a wall in the garage which has rakes and shovels and sledgehammers and whatever else you can think of, right? That's part one of the project. Part two is we are going to take all this stuff that's on the floor and get it onto a shelf. That's going to serve two purposes. One, it's going to give us twice as much room to store stuff, right? Because you could still put stuff underneath the shelf, but now we'll also have the shelf available to us. And it's going to keep the stuff that we want to stay high and dry, right? If you walked into like my grandfather's garage, for example, he has almost nothing on the floor. In fact, he had a couple things that were on the floor that belonged to me, and I got a phone call saying, hey, can you come get the stuff off the floor? So anyway, that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna install the shelf, we're gonna install Milwaukee Packout, and because the previous homeowner left me the same paint that is used on this wall, we're gonna paint the shelf. So it should all blend quite nicely, and I'm pretty excited about it. So my order of operations, what I'm thinking is I need to paint the shelf, and that's gonna have to dry. It's actually gonna take me a fairly long time to paint it because all I have is a 2-inch brush, and I just spent 2 hours buying stuff, so I don't wanna leave the house again to go buy more. So what I'm thinking is we can paint that while it's drying, maybe install the Packout wall, and of course I have to get everything that you just saw off the floor moved out of the way so I have some room to work. I'm pretty excited. I think that this is something I've been meaning to do ever since I got into this house, just to give myself a little bit more space with which to maneuver. And then once this project is done, I think the garage will really open up, and I can start to decide how I want to make use of all three of the garage base. As always, if you're into EDC tools or do-it-yourself projects, be sure to subscribe to this channel, and let's get to work. Whenever you get an area cleared out like this, always a good time to sweep because it's probably as clear as it's ever going to be. So the camera wasn't rolling, but there's a really good reason why I'm not a painter. I opened this can of paint and I decided it was a good idea to shake it. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Then the lid popped off, I got some paint on the floor, and now I really understand why it is that they make paint stir sticks. So, I left you all without a blooper, but that's why this isn't a how-to channel. Just me trying my best to build stuff and hopefully entertaining you all. What I'm gonna do, I decided, originally I wasn't gonna paint the strapping for the Packout, but I have the paint. It'll match the wall a lot better. I feel like it just makes sense. So, I'm gonna get these pieces painted. Then what I think I might, it probably just makes sense for me to paint everything. And then, while it's drying, I can get the shelf brackets installed. Once that's done, the strapping should be dry. I can get these on the wall. And as I'm installing the Packout, I can paint the other side of this board of the shelf and then put that on the wall. So I'm gonna try my best at painting. Definitely not my specialty, but I think it'll look a lot better if everything is color matching to the wall. All right, so the strapping is painted. Again, the strapping is gonna be used for the Packout. I painted the bottom side, the top side, the ends. I did not paint the back, but I think that this will be sufficient. I ended up painting top and bottom because when I look at my Packout over there, frankly, I wish I had painted them because you could see the raw board, and I think it will look just a little bit nicer not seeing that. So there's a world in which I take my Packout off the wall over there, paint it, and go through this process. But for now, I'm gonna let these dry, and I'm gonna install the shelf brackets. Once the shelf brackets are installed, I'm gonna put my strapping on the shelf brackets temporarily. They should be dry, but I wanna get the shelf painted, and then while that's drying, I'll focus on the Packout, and then getting the shelf itself installed takes 5 minutes once you have the brackets on the wall. So let's give it a try. Now what's nice about this wall is that I actually already know where my studs are, because these cabinets, the screws are into studs. So I did double check it, like with my stud buddy. I see a screw here, and then I've got a stud right here. And I can keep checking this sort of all the way down. There you go, there's one, that's a stud. And I see one right there. But you know what, I think that's okay, because I only have 3 brackets for my 8-foot shelf. So if I do one there, one here, and then maybe one over there, I would like one in this center span. So I'm gonna have to look at this a little bit more, but I'm gonna use my same old trick with the painter's tape. Even though I have the screws, I just wanna mark it closer to where the shelf will be installed. I have 22 inches from the top of this tile to the bottom of my electrical outlet. I obviously don't want to obstruct that in any way. So, and the brackets themselves are only 10 inches high. So I can come up like almost a foot and then I'll still be okay. All right, so I really do not understand the stud spacing in this house. It looks like we're 24 inches on center, but in other cases I'm seeing more or less than that. So I don't get it. But I do have them marked. I'm basically just gonna follow where the screws are for the cabinets. I'm gonna trust that these are into a stud. What I'm gonna do is basically just come an inch below where the electrical outlet is. And then I'm gonna shoot a laser at that line. And then the top of my bracket should be at the laser, because I've got a 3/4 inch thick piece of wood. So I give myself a 1/4 inch underneath the outlet. And then of course I'll still have plenty of room further underneath this. And in terms of overall height, we're gonna have, what are we gonna have? We have 22 inches from here. If we're coming an inch down, that's 21 inches minus 3/4. We're gonna have 19 3/4 inches here, which I think should be good enough.
A few moments later.
Had to redo my math a little bit there. So basically, I'm gonna come down 18 inches from the bottom of this cabinet, plus 3/4 of an inch, because that's how thick the shelf will be. So I'm gonna shoot a laser. Okay. So now this laser is at 18 3/4 of an inch. So now I'm gonna take my first bracket, get it lined up here. So that I can pre-drill some holes. I really don't want to make any holes that are unnecessary in this wall. So we've got our holes pre-drilled. I didn't want to take any chances. The laser's still going, so this should line up perfectly. The first one is just the hardest one, but once we get this one up here, we can use our 6-foot level to sort of carry us down. One thing about that second screw from the bottom, it's really hard to get to. We're gonna try and use the right angle on it. Perfect. This little laser level thing, I know like Ryobi just came out with a brand new one, but the new one, it's not vacuum. It's like it has pins in it, so it makes holes in the wall. Buy this while you still can. This thing is fantastic. I have a link in the description. You know, every single project I say to myself, this isn't gonna be that difficult, right? I've done the shelving thing before with these exact brackets, and pretty much every single time I am left slightly disappointed. This bracket took me 4 holes rather, to get the stud, even though the stud buddy was like, hey, you're good, and also I'm not lined up with this screw, so I don't know what this thing is screwed into, this cabinet. I thought I was a little off level. Thankfully, now that we have all 3 brackets on, I can see I'm level there, I'm level here, across 6 feet, which is great. Like I said, order of operations. I'm gonna move my Packout strapping onto the shelving. I'm gonna get to painting the actual shelf. And then while that's drying, we'll switch to installing Packout, which same set of problems. You gotta find studs, and I don't know what it is about this house, but they are hard to find. So, try my best. All right, so we got our shelf painted. Hopefully next time I open this, it doesn't explode like it did this time. Shelf is painted, brackets are there. My strapping should be dry. If it's not, I'm obviously gonna have to let it dry a little bit more, but should be dry, which means we're onto the Packout. I'm excited because a lot of people online have been complaining about like this Packout product, right? This is the one where you put your like, I don't know, rakes and brooms and stuff. But honestly, now that I have this in person, I think it's gonna work really well. Obviously, I don't think it's gonna be big enough for like your really thick-handled shovels, but I tested it with a rake and a broom and it seems like it works really well. So I'm really excited to get this on the wall. I think it's gonna clean up that whole portion of the garage nicely, and we're all about organization. All right, so I've got my studs marked. Again, I have very, very little confidence that it's the right marking, but it's the marking that I've got. And then I brought my broom over here just to try to get a sense of like, where would you want something like this hanging on the wall? And to me, the answer is right above where the tile is. And I think that it will actually work quite nicely for me to simply match the cabinetry with the Packout plate. Because if I line up the Packout plate with the cabinet, you can imagine this is being hung just like this. It's gonna be at the perfect height for us. So I'm basically just gonna follow the bottom and top of the cabinet with the strapping, and I think this shouldn't be too hard. So I think I'm gonna try and put the bottom plate on first. I measured my installation on the other wall, and it's 19 3/4 inches from the top of the top 1x4 to the bottom of the bottom 1x4. If I start the top of my top 1x4 equal to the top of this cabinet, this mark is 19 3/4 inches down. So I'm gonna line up with this, send the board across. I can only find 2 studs. I mean, this forms a corner, so I mean, there must be one over there. I'm just not picking up anything, so I may throw a screw in there, but I also don't think it's the end of the world if I don't, so we'll see. But I'm gonna try to get this one up here. This one, 1 hole, 1 stud, so hopefully that's gonna persist for the duration of the project. Nice. That was the easiest it's ever been to find 2 studs. I ended up putting 2 screws into each stud because I only have the 2. In general, I mean, I'm just not worried about, I guess there's more weight on this one that's on the other one, but I think having 2, I've got 2.5 inch screws, so 4 screws in total, into the 1x4, into the stud, and then I've got those nice GRK cabinet screws for the Packout plate itself. Okay, that looks to be level. Start throwing some screws in here, huh? The edge of my shelf to be equal to the end of the cabinet. And now it is. folks, thanks so much for watching. The project is done. Got our Packout wall over here. We've got our new shelf with our Packout drawers over there, and the whole thing is just way more organized. I have so much more space now underneath the shelf. I love that I'm very happy that I decided to paint both the strapping and the shelf. It really just blends in with the rest of the garage. This whole endeavor, I probably got to Home Depot around 9 a.m. and it's now 4 p.m. So listen, not a professional, just a homeowner trying to do his best. And this was a nice 7-hour Saturday. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.